going on? C.Smiley here, just chilling. Gonna listen to little Carl Oon. What's up? Fixing to do a study. Carl Oon, it is time. Let's listen, see what he has to say. And check this out. Join me. Let's start. He says it's time. It's time to get your shit right. Let's do this. Leave your comments.
And then return home. On the
Study deeply.
day after day, your life moves with the steady regularity of the hand of a clock, endlessly circling the same familiar face. You wake up, go to work, fulfill your responsibilities, and then return home.
Yeah.
On the surface, everything seems to be fine, yet somewhere deep within you, there is a persistent feeling that the present is only a waiting room, as though your real life still lies somewhere ahead. You tell yourself that once you become more confident, more capable, more grounded, or simply when the timing is finally right, you will begin living the life your heart has always longed for. Yet the irony is that while you remain absorbed in waiting, time quietly slips away, carrying with it opportunities that will never return, relationships that slowly change, and even the truest parts of who you are. According to Jung, the deepest tragedy of human life unfolds in the quiet moment when a person gradually drifts away from their own life without ever realizing it. And yet, the instant you become aware of that distance, the journey home has already begun. It takes root in a simple understanding. Recognizing why you have remained on the sidelines of your own life for so long, and then gently learning once again how to live fully within each moment that once seemed so ordinary. Let us look back on that journey together through the lens of Carl Jung. Perhaps what you have been searching for has never belonged to some distant future at all, but has been quietly present within this very moment. Number 1. Becoming a spectator of your own life. Think back to a morning that feels completely familiar. The moment you open your eyes, does your hand instinctively reach for your phone? Not because anything urgent is waiting, but because those first quiet moments of the day suddenly feel too empty. You check your messages, glance at your schedule, skim a few headlines, and before long, you're swept into the familiar rhythm of another day. You work, fulfill your responsibilities, care for the people around you, and move from one task to the next. From the outside, everything seems to be going well, yet deep inside lingers a feeling that is difficult to name, as though an invisible pane of glass always stands between you and your own life. You watch everything unfold. You know you're living, but you never truly feel yourself touching any of it. In Jungian psychology, this state is known as the provisional life. It describes a way of existing in which a person has not yet truly taken root in the present, carrying the constant feeling that life is still only in its opening chapter. It is like living in a house, going about your daily routines within its walls, while deep inside believing it is only a temporary place to stay.
Being psychotic, crazy.
You have never genuinely called it home. In much the same way, many people pass through their own lives while continuing to believe that their real life will begin someday in the future. The striking thing is that someday rarely takes the shape of an actual moment in time. It is less a destination on the calendar than a refuge created by the mind.
I tried that calendar.
By postponing life into the future, you spare yourself, for a while, from facing the uncertainties of the present. You do not have to speak the truth that may disappoint someone else. You do not have to attempt the very thing you fear you might fail at. Nor do you have to admit that the path you once dreamed of may no longer belong to you.
That path don't.
The future always feels gentler than the present, because in imagination, nothing has yet fallen apart. No one has turned away, and no choice has demanded that you carry its consequences. That is why the provisional life is not simply a sign of laziness or a lack of determination. More often, it is a quiet psychological defense that gradually forms in the wake of hurt and disappointment. A part of you has learned to remain behind the glass, where everything appears safer than stepping fully into life itself. If you never commit completely, failure cannot wound you quite so deeply. If you remain forever preparing without ever beginning, you can continue preserving the image of a perfect future. Perhaps this defense once helped you survive difficult seasons. But a place that once served as shelter, if you stay there too long, slowly becomes a closed room where you eventually forget that an open sky still exists beyond its walls. Mary's story makes Jung's insight easier to understand. Time and again, she promised herself that once her son went away to college, she would return to painting. For years, Mary devoted herself to caring for her family while working full-time, and all the while, an old box of paints quietly gathered dust in the corner of the garage. Even after her son moved out, she never opened it. Instead, she filled her days with other obligations, telling herself she would begin once everything felt more settled. Only much later did she realize that what had been holding her back was never a lack of time, but the fear of facing the part of herself that had waited silently through all those years. The part that had never stopped longing to pick up a paintbrush and live in harmony with what she truly loved.
Right.
The provisional life is often difficult to recognize because it rarely looks like surrender or failure. On the contrary, it often appears in the life of someone who is constantly busy, deeply responsible, and always moving forward. You continue setting goals, earning promotions, making plans for the future, and perhaps even becoming someone others admire. Yet there are moments when everything grows quiet, when the house falls still, and a gentle question rises from somewhere within. Is this truly my life? That question does not emerge because everything you have built is meaningless.
You get it?
It appears because you no longer feel genuinely connected to it.
Snakes.
You are still living that life, but you no longer feel that you belong inside it. One sentence from Jung illuminates this hidden landscape. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. What he wished to emphasize was not the importance of decorating ourselves with light, nor of seeing ourselves as hopelessly flawed. The darkness within each of us is simply the part we have spent so long avoiding. The fear of being truly seen, unspoken regrets, buried anger, dismissed desires, and the quiet question of whether we are living the life that is truly ours. Only by facing these hidden places can genuine transformation begin. Perhaps the deepest pain is not realizing that you have waited for far too long, but understanding that every day that passes is gone forever, and that only you can live your own life. Yet this awakening is not a sentence of condemnation. It is more like a delicate crack appearing in a sheet of clear glass, allowing light to slowly enter and reveal what has remained blurred for so long. You do not have to change everything all at once. Sometimes the first step is simply having the courage to face one thing you have spent years avoiding,
Negative people.
and then quietly reminding yourself that the time has come to allow yourself to truly
Let them
live,
go.
rather than merely exist. If these words have spoken to something within you, do not keep them in silence. Share your story. You may never realize how much it matters, but someone reading your words may discover in your story the hope they believed they had lost long ago.
Yeah, but some people's stories will drive them to
Number
commit
2,
suicide.
why we withdraw from our own lives. If the provisional life feels like standing behind a pane of clear glass,
Yeah, I'm listening
quietly watching your own life pass by without ever truly touching it, have you ever wondered why you ended up there? No one
Every
wakes
day.
up one morning and chooses to step outside their own life. It happens so gradually that it is almost impossible to notice. Perhaps it begins with staying silent to avoid conflict, or setting aside what you truly want to please others or keep the peace, until watching life from a distance becomes more familiar than living it. That pane of glass did not appear on its own. It was built from the wounds you carried and the ways you learned to protect yourself.
That's a lot of wounds.
According to Jung, what you present to the world is often only the most visible layer of who you are. Beneath hesitation, avoidance, or the inability to make a choice, there is often not laziness at all, but a deeply vulnerable part of you still trying to avoid touching an old wound. Even long after the storm has passed, the person inside the house may still be too afraid to open the door, because somewhere deep within, they remain convinced that danger is still waiting outside.
It always is.
A child who grows up in an environment where their emotions are repeatedly dismissed quickly learns that being true to themselves can bring trouble.
See?
When they are sad, they are told they are too sensitive. When they are angry, they are labeled difficult or badly behaved. And when they dare to express what they truly want, they become the target of ridicule. Little by little, that child learns to retreat inward.
Enjoyable.
Instead of listening to their own inner voice, they begin studying every expression on the faces of the adults around them, constantly trying to predict how they should behave to avoid being hurt once again. These protective mechanisms do not disappear when you become an adult. They continue operating quietly, like an alarm system that has become far too sensitive, sounding even when the danger no longer exists. A gentle piece of feedback is enough to make you feel rejected.
I got walked all over.
An honest conversation begins to resemble the threat of abandonment. Saying, "I want," stirs feelings of guilt, while saying, "No," causes your whole body to tense.
Nobody likes to hear
And so,
no.
many people continue choosing what feels most familiar. Observing instead of revealing themselves, pleasing others instead of choosing for themselves, and waiting instead of truly stepping into their own lives. Jung called these unconscious emotional knots complexes. They are clusters of memories, emotions, and beliefs from the past that continue to quietly shape the way you respond in the present. Whenever a situation accidentally touches one of these complexes, you are not merely reacting to what is happening before you. You are also reacting through fears that have lived inside you for years. The silence of a supervisor may unconsciously remind you of an unpredictable father. The disappointment in your partner's eyes may awaken the feeling that you have never truly been enough.
We just never had a mom.
You believe you are responding to the present moment, yet often it is your unhealed wounds that are speaking through you. One viewer shared that he had turned down 3 promotions despite wanting to advance in his career. Each time, he found a convincing reason. The timing was not right, or he needed more preparation.
You know, I'm
Only
not
after
gonna
a
get
conversation with his mother
where I
did a
want to be, but
childhood
if I
memory
don't pick
resurface.
something, then I'm stuck in a
Whenever
fucking
he had
hole.
shown confidence or excitement, his
Doesn't fucking
father
make
had
sense.
mocked him. He then realized it was never the new position he feared, but being seen trying and failing.
Yeah, every fucking day.
Staying where he
remind me of
was
that.
brought
Trying
no
every day.
fulfillment,
I don't know how many job
yet it
applications you
protected
gotta
him
fill
from the
out.
shame that had quietly followed him for years. Sometimes withdrawal is not dramatic at all. Instead, it hides within a far subtler pattern, keeping every possibility suspended in uncertainty.
I like how he said
Some
7.
people never fully commit to a career, a relationship, or a particular path because they fear that choosing one thing means letting go of every other possibility.
And
they want to
shit like
preserve
that,
every version
after
of
going out
themselves
getting
at once,
degree and
the
shit.
artist, the entrepreneur, or the person living in some distant city.
Just because you gotta be
That
cool.
feeling can easily be mistaken for freedom. Yet a ship can only discover the sea after it leaves the harbor. If it remains forever anchored to avoid every possible risk, it will never know the vastness of the ocean.
Vastness.
Every choice comes with a sacrifice. Every time you say yes to one thing, you are quietly saying no to countless others. In imagination, every door can remain open forever.
Forever?
But in real life, time is never infinite. You truly begin to mature only when you find the courage to stay with one path, accept the awkwardness of the beginning, and learn through every stumble along the way.
Every stumble.
Having countless options does not mean you are free if you never walk through any of the doors. In that case, no matter how wide the hallway may be, it remains nothing more than a place where you continue standing still. At this point, one of Jung's reflections offers exactly the kind of gentleness we need. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. You cannot heal a wound by hating yourself for carrying it. Only when you become calm enough to understand why it formed in the first place and how it once protected you, can you begin, little by little, to set it down. The more harshly you judge yourself, the more tightly fear holds on. Only when it is truly understood does it gradually lose its power. So perhaps the more important question is not why you are too weak to step into your own life, but which part of you still does not fully believe that it is finally safe to do so. When you can look upon your own withdrawal with compassion rather than shame or self-blame, you slowly begin reclaiming the power to choose from the fears that have accompanied you for so long. Number 3. The price of the pane of glass. If in the previous section, you came to understand why people gradually learn to step back to protect themselves, then what we need to see clearly now is the price of that protection. The pane of glass does not merely keep pain from reaching you. It also quietly keeps out warmth, closeness, joy, and the experience of feeling fully alive. Standing behind that invisible barrier, you may feel safer because you no longer have to face as much hurt or rejection. Yet that very sense of safety silently takes something else away.
What's that?
Life itself begins to feel distant, even though nothing around you has actually changed. When you never fully commit to anything, you always keep an exit reserved. If a relationship yourself you never truly loved disappoints you, you believe you never really gave it your best. If a dream remains unfinished, you convince yourself the timing simply was not right. This protects you from the pain of failure, but it also causes every experience to skim the surface of your life without leaving a lasting mark. You continue living and fulfilling your responsibilities, yet you never open yourself enough for life to truly touch and transform you. According to Jung, we cannot keep only the emotions that feel pleasant while shutting out those that hurt. You cannot close the door to sorrow and still expect joy to enter freely. When we numb fear, we also dull our capacity for wonder. When we avoid attachment to escape loss, we gradually lose our ability to love. That pane of glass becomes like soundproofing around the soul.
That's messed
It
up.
keeps the cries outside, but it also muffles the laughter. Life goes on,
It does.
yet its colors slowly
It is what
fade
it is.
until one day you wonder why nothing moves you the way it once did. A story from Greek mythology offers a vivid
Pain,
reflection of the
suffering,
hidden cost of this
things not
seemingly
going your
harmless
way,
search
that's
for
why.
safety.
Mostly.
King Midas once wished that everything he touched would turn to gold, because he believed that gold would provide absolute security. His wish was granted, yet before long, his food, his water, and even the people he loved were transformed into lifeless pieces of cold metal. The very gift that promised to protect him from
Just fucking killed
scarcity
him.
ultimately
Probably within
robbed
40
him of
days
the
at least.
ability to truly live.
Starving.
The psychological pain of glass works
Crazy.
in much the same way. It
Careful
may
what you
shield
wish
us
for.
from
I
suffering,
wanted to be a wrestler.
but if we remain
Now I
hidden
wrestle
behind
with
it for
life.
too long, we are left watching life from
You
a
gotta be
distance,
exact.
instead of placing
They
our
tell you that
hands upon
all
its
the
living
time, too.
heartbeat.
You gotta be
Jung
exact with
devoted
what
great
you want.
attention to the question of meaning, because in his view, meaning is never found in remaining safe from every possible risk. It emerges only when we are willing to devote our time, our love, and our energy to something long enough for it to become part of who we are. A relationship becomes truly profound only when two people are willing to let each other see the imperfect places they usually keep hidden. A career becomes a calling only after we have lived through days of discouragement,
Don't get
doubt,
hooked up with
and
narcissistic
failure.
motherfucker because
A
they use that
talent
shit
blossoms only through years of steady practice and the willingness to learn from countless mistakes.
Fuck that.
Commitment is not a chain that binds us. More often, it is the framework that allows our still-forming potential to gradually take shape.
But eventually,
Water without the guidance of a riverbed spreads in every direction before quietly disappearing into the ground. Only when it has a channel does it gain the power to travel far. In the same way, choosing one path requires letting go of the illusion that you can live every possible life. In return, however, you are given the chance to live one life fully as your own.
Right.
Freedom is not merely having countless doors from which to choose.
Got one life.
It also dares to walk through one of them and remain there long enough to discover what awaits on the other side. Another cost of standing behind the pane of glass is that your trust in yourself gradually becomes fragile. Each time you avoid an important conversation, postpone a difficult decision, or break a promise you made to yourself, you quietly send a small message into the deepest part of your being. What I truly want is not that important, and I am not strong enough when life becomes difficult. Nothing collapses overnight. Yet through countless moments like these, your confidence slowly wears away. Eventually, you do not simply become hesitant about life itself. You begin to question whether you are capable of facing it at all. Jung once wrote in his memoir, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." Something small that carries genuine meaning is more valuable than the grandest achievement that is empty within. For meaning is never measured by the size of what you accomplish, but by how fully you are present in the life you are living. And then there is time. The one thing the provisional life consistently misunderstands. You continue believing that you will begin once you are less busy, more confident, financially secure
I
enough,
kept saying,
or
I'm gonna
finally
begin my
finished
life
with
at
all the
26.
responsibilities
I'm gonna begin
before
my
you.
life at 33.
Yet time does not
I'm gonna
pause
begin my life
while
at
waiting for us to
40.
feel ready. It quietly
I'm
moves
45
on,
today.
carrying away conversations
Thank
that
you, but
never
it's
took
not my
place,
birthday. I'm just 45
words of
today.
love that were never spoken, and possibilities that were never
365
explored.
days. Counting
The
down.
tragedy is not that you might fail. It is that you may never have allowed life to answer you in the first place. Recognizing this cost is not meant to make you feel afraid or ashamed, but to remind you that standing still is also a choice, and that safety
Yeah,
can
people
come at a high
driving
price.
crazy.
Perhaps that pane of glass once protected you,
Break that shit.
but it cannot help you grow or live your
Fucking hit a
life
golf
for
ball in
you.
that.
If today you realize you have remained behind it for too long, leave this simple sentence in the comments. I choose to be present. Not as a promise to change everything
That's what
overnight,
the last one
but
was
as a
about
quiet
being
reminder
present.
that life is waiting for you on the
I
other
choose to be
side.
present.
Number 4,
Here we go.
stepping
Number
through
5.
the pane of glass. If in the previous section, the pane of glass served as a quiet refuge that sheltered you from life's collisions, then the next step is neither to turn your back on it, nor to rush to shatter it. There
Don't
was once a
rush.
time when that
That's what I just
fragile
said.
barrier
Break it with a golf
protected
ball.
you from glances that made your heart contract, from words of rejection that left it aching, and from moments when living authentically felt unbearably vulnerable. That is why stepping through the glass does not begin with a dramatic act, but with a quiet gaze. You turn back, place your hand upon it with gratitude, and realize that the place which once held you so gently has now become too small for the person you are slowly becoming. According to Carl Jung, the journey of returning to yourself is called individuation. It is not about separating yourself from the world, nor is it an attempt to become a flawless version of yourself. It is more like discovering a vast garden that, until now, you have only dared to admire from its entrance, where everything has been neatly trimmed to satisfy the expectations of others. One corner of the garden is as gentle as a peaceful afternoon. Another is an untamed patch of earth where anger has remained unnamed for years. Elsewhere, seeds of talent, longing, fear, and the questions you have carefully hidden all lie waiting beneath the soil.
Why?
Becoming yourself
Only question.
means finding the courage to walk deeper into that garden, to touch every part of it, and to allow each piece to exist as it truly is, instead of preserving only the small corner that appears calm and acceptable. That journey cannot truly unfold if you remain standing on the sidelines, merely reflecting on life. You may read countless books, understand why you are afraid, and even learn to name the wounds that have quietly lingered within you. But understanding alone is never enough. Transformation begins only when you dare to turn what you understand into the way you choose to live. You discover who you truly are through the things you are willing to do, through the way you respond when life unfolds differently than you hoped, and through every stumble that compels you to look inward and reshape the way you understand yourself. Stepping through the pane of glass is also the moment when you slowly begin removing the armor you have worn for so long that you once mistook it for your true identity. You begin speaking with your own authentic voice. You allow others to see your deepest needs. You dare to love more deeply and commit yourself to what truly matters. Yet in that very moment, your body may begin to speak. Your heart races before an honest conversation. Your stomach tightens as you prepare to say no. Your mind searches endlessly for reasons to postpone what you know you need to do. Perhaps your body is simply repeating an old memory, one that learned long ago that being truly seen was dangerous, even though life is no longer the same. During a conversation after work one evening, John once told me that whenever he disagreed with his wife, he would either fall silent or quietly leave the room. He believed it was the only way to prevent the situation from becoming more tense.
Yep, just leave.
Yet to his wife, that silence felt like avoidance. Then one evening, John chose to stay.
John.
For the first time, he spoke about the fear that had quietly followed him for years.
Good for him.
The fear that one day he would become like his father, a man whose anger had once filled their home with uncertainty.
Far from
The
that.
conversation that
Far from
night
my
was
dad.
far from perfect, but it was the first time his wife was able to reach the real person who had remained hidden behind his silence for so long. Every time you choose to remain in a difficult conversation, instead of quietly withdrawing, every time you speak what you truly think, instead of hiding behind a safe answer, or every time you continue walking towards something meaningful, even while your heart is still trembling, you create a new experience for yourself. It is much like an animal that has spent its life inside a small cage.
Crazy.
Even after the door has been opened, it still needs time to believe that the world outside is no longer filled with danger. The fearful part of you is no different. It needs repeated encounters with reality before it can truly understand that being present does not always lead to pain, and that authenticity does not always end in separation. Here, Jung's words touch upon a truth that many people quietly spend their lives avoiding. There is no coming to consciousness without pain.
Pain.
If you wish to become yourself, you cannot hold on only to what feels comfortable while continuing to avoid every difficult emotion. There will be conversations that make your heart race,
Hell yeah,
decisions that cause you to question yourself,
damn straight.
and moments of failure that tempt you to retreat to the old safety you once knew. Yet it is precisely by remaining present within those experiences that you gradually step beyond the patterns that once confined you and make room for a more authentic self to emerge. When you truly step into your own life, every emotion becomes more vivid, not only the pleasant ones. Sadness deepens. Disappointment is no longer hidden beneath constant busyness. Loss touches you with an intensity you may never have known before. Yet at the very same time, another door quietly opens to joy, to connection, and to the profound feeling that life has meaning.
Yep, true that.
You develop the capacity to let life reach you
Life's a
without
roller coaster.
immediately retreating.
Woo!
You cry when tears are needed. You laugh when your heart is genuinely moved.
Word.
And you begin to realize that you are living each moment instead of merely standing outside, watching life pass by. Perhaps the very first step is simply noticing the moments when you instinctively pull away or retreat.
See, normally it's when people start realizing this stuff, when you fall sick or something else crazy freaking happens, and mainly when people get cancer, or knowing that they're, you know, got an illness or a sickness, is when they start opening their minds to stuff. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
And then choosing to remain present just a little longer. Every time you do, another small crack appears in the pane of glass, allowing life one more chance to reach you.
I used to just work constantly. I believed if I just focused on working, and that's how I was providing for my family, and then stuff like that. I even ended up dating somebody that helped me think that way, but I never got my money or anything else like that. But I was just constantly working, because that's what men do. Get out there and work. But then life changed. COVID happened. After COVID slowed down, fuck, dude, that was just trippy to me. And then, going through some other stuff, finding out you got a brain tumor and your shunt don't work anymore, and they can't take that tube and stuff out of your body, and you got to live with it. That stent's shoved way down in your brain. They don't know if that tumor, where the fluid does flow in the back of your neck and stuff, is could grow and clog it back up, and then you got pressure back up on your head again. Or I got that C3 and C4 smashed in my neck. I don't, just stuff, man. And then as you get older, I mean, when you're young, in your from your teens all the way up through your 20s and your 30s, you just don't think it's. A lot of people don't think of that shit. A lot. I didn't until yeah, until life started opening my eyes to stuff. What are you looking at? All right.
And when your
Just
deepest
saying.
concern is no longer how to avoid being hurt, another question slowly begins to emerge. Today, through which small choice are you willing to live more truthfully as yourself? Number 5. Life begins in the present.
Right now.
Life is not a rehearsal. No bell will ever ring to announce that, from this moment on, you are finally safe enough, strong enough, or ready enough to begin living. Nor will anyone come to reassure you that every risk has now disappeared.
Well, we're not for sure if we're going
The
to have
day
tomorrow.
you have quietly
That's
been
for
waiting
sure.
for may never arrive, because life does not begin when everything becomes perfect. It is unfolding quietly right now, in the morning you have just awakened to, in the room where you are sitting, in the way you meet the eyes of the person before you, and in the next small choice that only you know you need to make. Truly, living does not necessarily dramatic changes, such as leaving your job, moving to a distant city, or turning to an entirely new chapter of your life.
Yeah, but they say change is good.
Sometimes it begins with a single honest sentence in the conversation you have long avoided. It may be an hour devoted to something that makes your heart come alive, a phone call to someone you have been missing, a gentle no to what has been weighing heavily upon your spirit, or simply following through on a small promise you made to yourself. At first glance, these acts seem ordinary, yet they are like the first stones placed across a flowing river. One by one, they quietly form a path that carries you away from where you have been standing, and closer to the life you have truly longed to live. At the heart of it all is learning how to choose. Choosing is not only about embracing what you desire, it is also about finding the courage to let go of what cannot be held on to. Every time you walk through one door, you quietly close countless others behind you. That can leave your heart feeling heavy, because the mind always wants to believe that as long as no decision is made, every possibility remains alive. Yet a life only begins to take shape when certain paths are chosen and others are gently laid to rest. Clay can never become a vessel if the potter remains forever hesitant, afraid of giving up all the other forms it might have become. In the film The Wild Robot, Roz does not become a mother or a being capable of love because she was not fully prepared.
Didn't see that movie.
At first, she is simply a machine trying to complete the
Oh, that
tasks
movie.
she was
Yeah.
programmed to perform. But when she chooses to care for the young gosling Bright Bill, she has no idea whether she will succeed or fail. No one can guarantee where that path will lead. It is the accumulation of countless small choices, repeated day after day, that gradually transforms her. Roz does not wait until she feels completely confident before beginning to live a different life. She becomes who she is by stepping into that life, one choice at a time. That image reflects what Jung called the self, the deepest, most authentic part of who you are. The self is not simply the personality others see or the story you tell about yourself.
Make a choice.
Think of it as the innermost room of a house, where every part of you belongs, your strengths and weaknesses, the qualities you cherish, and the parts you once tried to hide. When you live only through the persona, the mask that earns others' acceptance, you can spend a lifetime becoming who they expect you to be. But when you begin listening to the self, you are not abandoning responsibility or chasing every emotion. You are simply asking one quiet question. Does what I am doing truly reflect the person I want to become?
I know you guys saw that. Cool.
Jung once wrote, "Life has always seemed to me like a plant that lives on its rhizome. You cannot see those roots, yet they quietly support and nourish the entire plant." Human life is much the same. A meaningful life is not measured solely by visible achievements, but is woven from quiet choices that remain faithful to the deepest truth within you. When those roots are neglected, the outward appearance may remain strong for a while, but inwardly you begin to wither. In the end, being fully present is simply the way we return to caring for those hidden roots. That does not mean following every feeling the moment it arises. Living in the present is not impulsiveness, nor is it an excuse to avoid responsibility. Presence is the ability to look directly at reality, to listen carefully to the subtle movements within your own heart, and then to choose with clarity and awareness. Sometimes the truest choice is to walk away. At other times, it is to remain and face what you have spent years avoiding. Some moments call for speaking, and others call for silence long enough to truly listen. The difference is that you are no longer acting merely out of fear, or simply to preserve the mask you have worn for so long. There will be days when you falter, when exhaustion draws you instinctively back behind the pane of glass, or when you once again choose what feels familiar instead of what your heart quietly calls you toward. But that does not mean you have failed. The journey back to yourself has never been a straight line. It is the ongoing practice of realizing, again and again,
it's more like
that you have wandered away,
zigzagging,
and then gently finding your way back.
all that weird crap.
With every return, the present moment ceases to be a place where you wait for life to begin. It becomes the only place where you can love, create meaning, and truly live your own life. Your life is not waiting for you on some perfect day that lies ahead.
What?
It is here, in this very breath, in the eyes of the person sitting before you, and in the small act your heart has been quietly urging you to take. You do not have to change everything to begin living differently. Perhaps the first step is simply to stop missing the moment that is already here. No one can be present on your behalf, and no one can live today again once it has passed.
Damn, that's deep right there.
And when the day finally comes to an end, perhaps the question worth carrying with you is not how much you accomplished, but this: in which moment, however small, did you truly live your own life? The provisional life comes to an end through small choices, as you gradually step beyond the pane of glass built from fear, hesitation, and the ways you once learned to protect yourself but no longer need. Each time you become a little more honest, a little more present, and a little more courageous, you move one step closer to your own life. It is these choices, repeated day after day, that quietly reshape who you become over time.
Day after day.
And perhaps the thing we have been waiting for was never
DC
hidden
Talk
in
has a song
some
called
distant
Day
day in the future.
Day by day, my bad.
It is here today,
Day
in the next
by
conversation,
day,
the next
day.
decision, and this very moment. If you want to begin today, leave this sentence in the comments. I choose to live fully from this moment on. Not as a promise to change everything overnight, but as a small milestone that reminds you that life begins right here, in this very moment. And if this message has resonated with you, please give the video a like to support the channel.
Yeah.
Share it with someone you believe may also need to hear these words.
Thank you.
And subscribe so we can continue exploring the teachings of Carl Jung, psychology, and the journey of
self-refining. Yeah, refining ourselves. That'd be cool. You know what I mean? Change. You know, you just can't stay the same all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's good for you guys. Change. Change is good. As we're getting older. It's nuts. Life is crazy. That's how it is. And everything. Catch you guys next time. Thanks for the thumbs up. Later.